Leadership is a lonely place. We're going to talk about everything from growth of a business, taking a business from $20 million to $200 million. I believe in continuous learning, and I believe we should all keep trying new things. With so many people in this space, why should you listen to me? Why should you care about any conversations I'm having? So just focus on one shot at a time and think about how it's going to get you where you want to be. You're meant to be a business owner.
Welcome to Leadership Backstage, the podcast that exposes the raw truths behind leadership. We dive deep into blind spots, failures, and bold moves, questioning the myths leaders cling to and challenging you to think differently. Each episode brings unfiltered stories from CEOs, executives, and thought leaders who fought through scaling pains, culture clashes, and high-stakes decisions. This is where courage, clarity, and breakthrough thinking collide, sparking insights that actually matter. Here's your host, Claudia Williams.
Hi, and welcome to Leadership Backstage. I'm your host, Claudia, and I'm really happy and a little scared to be here with you. I'm entering a space that isn't really comfortable for me. As a public speaker, as someone who crafts unique workshops, custom workshops, I love being in a room with people and experiencing that live energy and improvising with it and connecting with you in person. This camera microphone gig, it's hard for me, but I'm going to do it. I believe in continuous learning, and I believe we should all keep trying new things. So I'm branching out into this space, and I'm doing it because I think it's really important to go behind the curtain of leadership, to talk about our blind spots and the breakthroughs we have, how we overcome challenges, how we fail, and how those failures really do tee us up for success. I've worked with a lot of CEOs and business leaders over the last 30 years. I've learned a lot from them, from working with them, from having the privilege of working with them. And I know there are other CEOs, C-suite leaders, presidents, founder, entrepreneurs, multi-generational family businesses, as well as larger businesses out there. Leadership is a lonely place, and I'm hoping this space makes it a little less lonely for you to know that you aren't the only person staying up at night struggling with the decisions you have to make, the only one who doesn't care as much about your people as you do, and that it isn't just some cushy high tower job, and it isn't just about making money. You really do care about your people. You care about everyone who shows up to work hard for you, and you have to make tough decisions for them, sometimes with them, sometimes about them. And you have to run a business, and you need to make sure that that business stays afloat and is successful and profitable so that those people have a job to come to. So we'll be talking with people in your shoes, the CEOs, the presidents, the C-suite leaders. Let's talk about the experiences. Let's talk about what's working and what isn't working. Let's talk about your mistakes. Let's talk about the great decisions and the things that have led to ultimately your success stories, those blind spots. What do you wish you knew when you first started in your positions? How did you get there? There are a lot of unlikely leaders out there. I'm having conversations with people who say, I never pictured myself as a leader, and it just kind of happened, and here's how it happened. They're really interesting stories. And so for those of you up and coming, if you're in college right now, or maybe you're like my daughter who's a senior in college and she's in PGN, a business fraternity, listen to these stories because this might be the journey you take. What can you learn so that you don't make the same mistakes other people made? I'm curious. What do you want to learn about? Send me your questions. Send me your thoughts. What is keeping you up at night? I'll tell you at the end of this episode how to reach me, because I'd love to know what you're thinking about. We're going to talk about everything from the growth of a business, taking a business from $20 million to $200 million. We're going to talk about restructuring and reorganizing, and how important organizational design is to be able to scale the business. And so many companies get it wrong. And the ones who get it right are the ones who really have the ability to scale. We're going to talk about the people decisions. It's more than just having the right people, but are we putting people in positions to succeed, or are we just promoting people because they're really good at their jobs? But what are we doing to teach and train and develop them to lead? Because leading others is so much different from just being really freaking good at what you do. And are we owning the mistakes we make when it comes to people and business decisions? Man, what are we doing about it when we do make mistakes? Are we being genuine? Are we being transparent? And how do we overcome all the obstacles that get in our way? So, why me? So many people in this space. Why should you listen to me? Why should you care about any conversations I'm having? Well, let me tell you a little bit about me. I am the youngest of four girls to a very traditional Italian American dad who wanted nothing other than to have a son. So when I was born, back in the day, I'm in my 50s, we can just leave it at that. When I was born, dads weren't allowed in the delivery room. So I was the first kid where my dad was allowed in the delivery room. And when I was born, the doctor said, "Well, Frank, four of a kind beats a full house." And that was how my dad knew he had a fourth daughter and not his first son. But it turns out that having daughters was a great thing for my dad because it completely changed his perspective on the role of women. He made my mom quit her job when they got married and essentially made her be a homemaker. She didn't have a choice. And she was, when I tell you, I ate really well as a child. We had the most fantastic home cooked meals every single day of my life. And our house was spotless and everything had a place in the refrigerator. It took something out, it had to go right back in its place. I mean, my mom was the ultimate homemaker. She also was really unhappy. And I was in a position where I was able to take in a lot of information. And also because I was the youngest, my dad had a lot of time to invest in me, which started with him nicknaming me Clyde after Clint Eastwood's pet orangutan in the movie Every Which Way But Loose. True story. And he taught me how to fish and play golf. So at 10 years old, I started golfing with my dad. At 11, I started competing. I'm convinced I learned so much about life and business on that golf course with my dad, because one of the earliest lessons I got from my dad was when I hit a ball in the woods or I hit a ball into a bunker or into a hazard. And my dad would always say, "Clyde, you always have a shot. It might not be the shot you want. You might have to hit it backwards. You might have to take a penalty stroke. But whatever that shot is, you have it. And ultimately, it's going to tee you up for the next shot. So just focus on one shot at a time and think about how it's going to get you where you want to be." So I was learning things about mindset and not drowning or ruminating in negativity. And so I learned so much from that. And I also learned, I think ultimately, that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. My dad was a pharmacist. He owned his own small pharmacy in Utica, New York. For those of you familiar with upstate New York, Oneida Square Pharmacy was my dad's pharmacy. And I had to spend my holiday breaks from school working in his pharmacy. So I was working a cash register. And I learned a lot about business. I watched my dad communicate with his regular customers. I learned how to work the cash register, which in those days, you had to push buttons down and then pound on the big solid bar to the right of the register. And all these numbers swirled up. There was nothing electronic. I had to learn how to give change by doing math. I had to count out the change. So my dad taught me how to do that. I learned a lot. And I learned what it meant to control your destiny and rise or fall with the business. And I remember distinctly when I decided to go to law school and when I was a practicing lawyer, I had a colleague say to me, "You're never going to be someone's employee. You're not going to like being someone's employee. You're meant to be a business owner." And so, Todd, if you're listening, Todd said that to me when I left my equity partnership to go work for the Hershey Company. And ultimately, he was right because I ended up leaving Hershey to start my own business. So I went from college to trying this first gig as a golf pro. Yes, I moved to Scottsdale, Arizona, and tried to make it as a golf pro in the golf business. But you know what? When golf, my favorite hobby, became my career, it was no longer fun. I didn't love it anymore. I had an absolute hunger for knowledge and learning, and I wasn't getting that from golf. So I decided to go back to plan A, which always was law school. I moved back east, went to law school, became a lawyer in private practice, working for huge global or a huge international law firm, one of the top 3 labor and employment law practices in the country, and learned a ton. Did that, ultimately became an equity partner in private practice, and then went in-house with the Hershey Company, where I was responsible for global HR and litigation. Huge budget. I was managing an almost $15 million budget for that practice and had a team of attorneys. It was crazy. I was traveling the world. Phenomenal experience. I was able to help solve problems in Shanghai, sitting across the table from local government leaders, sitting side by side with the local Hershey business leaders when we had 400 people storm a gate and stage a protest at one of the manufacturing facilities. I was in Singapore and Dubai and Mexico and Canada. I was all over the place for work. Mumbai, India. Phenomenal experiences. Truly a global education in business. I supported the chief HR officer and the HR executive team. I supported the compensation committee and the audit committee of the board of directors. So much work. It was incredible. And the burnout was incredibly high. But what I'm really grateful for is that I was able to take everything I learned and take my lawyer hat off and start my consulting practice over 10 years ago. And I've been doing it ever since. And it's been a privilege to work with the CEOs and business leaders that I've been able to sit across a table from or join on a Teams or Zoom meeting. I'll be bringing some of those very leaders to you in this podcast setting. We'll hear their stories. I'm excited to talk with them. We'll have everything from how introverts made it to the very top of the business to hearing their stories of their own imposter syndrome. Can they really believe that people in the room want to hear anything they have to say? These things are real. These feelings are real. I still experience it. I can't believe that. Sometimes I can't believe that a business leader would want to hear anything I have to say. I have to pinch myself. But I love what I do. I'm really grateful for what I do. And I think the very first time I experienced a coaching session ended up being when I was 14. And I was sitting in my house. Now, remember, I told you I have 3 older sisters. But I had that house as a kid where it was not unusual for the police to show up. Parents who were great in their own way as parents, but really dysfunctional as a married couple. So the police had just left, and my aunt, who lived next door, came over, and I'm sitting in our family room. I remember this so vividly. I'm sitting in my family room with my aunt and my parents. And I looked at my parents and I said, "You two, it's time. You really should get a divorce. This isn't working." And my dad said, "Clyde, what do you mean?" everything's going to be fine. And I said, really? Do you really think this is working? Tell me what's working here. Because I'm observing the same pattern. Like this stuff keeps happening over and over again. And my dad said, no, Clyde, why would you say that? Everything's going to be fine. It's going to be different. And I was like, oh my gosh, am I the only one who sees the pattern? And I had 4 more years in the house with my 2 parents because my dad really believed that it was much better for a kid to have 2 parents in the house than to have divorced parents. Live and learn, hindsight and all that. But I remember feeling that I could see the forest through the trees. I picked up on patterns of behavior. I could see the forest through the trees, and that's always been who I am. I'm a big thinker. I'm a deep thinker. I look for patterns. I'm always playing chess, I guess is a way to describe it. I'm always trying to look ahead, and I work really hard to try to get the people I work with to play chess in their business, to think about how, if you're thinking 3 steps ahead, what does that decision mean? What's the impact? Move out of execution mode and move into impact and thinking and talking about impact. So that's where we're going to go on this journey. I don't know how long I'm going to do this, but I'm going to enjoy the ride. I encourage all of you to take a step back and ask yourselves, are you enjoying your ride? If not, what are you going to do about it? Is there a change, just one small step, one change you need to make to look at things a little differently, to push yourself a little harder, push yourself outside your comfort zone? What could this mean for you in 2026? What's one thing you can do to change how you see something, change how you do something, learn something new, try something new, and maybe go on this journey with me and see where it takes us? What would you like to know from leaders, from people who help leaders? How can we help you? Send me your questions. You can learn more about me if you visit my website, Claudia-Williams.com, or shoot me an email, claudiawilliams@humanzonebiz.com. I look forward to hearing from you. I'm really excited to go on this journey with you. Be a little patient with me, because I'm not going to lie, I might suck at this, but I'm going to work really hard at it. And you know what? We're going to have fun. So I will talk to you soon. Thanks for joining me. And I look forward to the next episode where it isn't just me talking all by myself. Thanks for coming behind the curtain with me today.
The Leadership Backstage podcast requires more than a conversation. It takes action, research, and collective wisdom. If today's episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear your insights. Join the conversation and help us shape the future together. We'll be back with more stories, strategies, and real-world solutions that are making a difference for everyone. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe, rate, write a review, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it too. Thanks for listening, and see you on the next episode.